What does that mean, signed numbers? That doesn't mean somebody autographed them. Today will be the first time we're going to be dealing with negative numbers. In a few weeks, you're going to start to go, oh, it's cold outside. I go, what's the temperature? You're going to say what? -6, -8, -12 degrees. Or, if you have a $500 in your account and you write a check for $600, guess what happens? You have a -100 for a balance. You owe somebody $100. So let's talk about numbers, just to go back and refresh your memory. A long time ago, we said counting numbers. Counting numbers, we call them actually natural numbers. And normally given the letter N. So when I said count how many students in the classroom, what is the first number you start with when you're counting? 1. So counting numbers always begins with 1. Now if you go and add 0 to that list, you have what we call whole numbers. And usually that's given the letter H. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. No decimal yet. Just the portion of it. Well, today we're going to be talking about positive and negative numbers. So those are called integers. Integers given the letter I. So it's like -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Integers. The number line, just a little, some of you probably seen this. The number line, when we draw it, we go, this is the number line. If I can find a straight edge to make it look at least nice and straight. Go ahead. This is the number line. This is the 0, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, and it keeps going. So again, let me show you what we're talking about when we say we have natural numbers, counting numbers. Just these dots on the line, just the dots, not what's in between them, just these points. How many of them? Well, there are infinite points. It goes all the way to infinity. But you're not counting what's in between them. Like 1.1 is not a counting number. When you count, you don't go 1, 1.1, 1.111. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. If you add the 0 to that, you have these numbers. The integer is only a small portion of that number line because it's only these dots. You still have infinite points not included. Now, the numbers to the right of 0 are called what? Where's the 0? Right here. The numbers to the right are known as what? Positive numbers. And the ones to the left are what? Negative numbers. What about the 0? Is it positive or negative? Well, it's neither. 0 is not a positive or a negative number. So the first thing in this section is comparing numbers. Which one is bigger? Which one is smaller? The other thing we're going to look at is called opposite. The other one is absolute value. There's a few topics in this chapter we're going to be visiting before we start talking about how do you add them and how do you subtract them. So let me look at the next picture. Let me make a picture here. Again, there's the number line, the 0, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the -1, the -2, the -3, the -4, the -5. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is actually the opposite. What is the opposite to 4? Where is 4? 4 is right here. How far is it? It's 4 units away from the origin. This is the origin. So that distance is 4. So the opposite to that is going to be a number, the same distance going the other direction, which will be what? -4. The opposite to -2 is what? How far -2 from the 0? 2 units? So what's 2 units away from it to the right? Because this was on the left. +2. So basically what you're doing is you're changing the sign. That's what opposite. To get the other number, you change the sign. The opposite of 3 is what? -3. The opposite of -2/5 is what? +2/5. I don't care if the number is a fraction, whole number, whatever. The opposite of 0 is what? 0 does not have a positive and negative, so the positive 0 is also 0. So that's what opposite is. Change the sign. The next topic is the absolute value. Again, let me draw a picture here. Let's talk about the absolute value. And usually the absolute value is given, you'll see it like this, 2 lines straight up there. That's the symbol for it. So when I say, what's the absolute value of -5? The definition of absolute value is the distance between the number and the origin, which is 0. And 0. That's really what the definition of absolute value. What is the distance from -5 to 0? How many units? 5. Distance will never be negative. So the absolute value is always a positive answer. 5. The absolute value of 7. 7. The absolute value of -50. 50. The absolute value of 33. 33. The absolute value of -2/3. 2/3. The absolute value of 1.75. 1.75. The absolute value of 0 is 0. How far is 0 from 0? 0. So that's really why the absolute value is always a positive. So if the number is negative, what do? Make it positive. If the number is positive, leave it alone. What happens every once in a while, you see a problem like this. And people say the answer is 5. And I go, why 5? Well, I distribute that minus sign. Minus and minus is a plus. It's not. You got to find the answer to the absolute value of negative 5, which is what? 5. And there's that sign in the front still sitting out there. So you don't distribute that. You find the solution to that piece, which is 5. Then you leave the minus sign in the front. That's the only time you could have an absolute value being negative, the answer. Not the absolute value itself, because you have the minus sign right here. So opposite and absolute values, we did them. Next topic, comparing signed numbers, meaning what? Finding out which one is bigger. So this is the absolute value. That was the opposite there. Let me draw a line again, because having the line is nice, is handy. You can look at it and visualize it. So this topic is comparing signed numbers. What does that mean, comparing signed numbers? Tell me, is it less than or is it greater than? Can you look at a number? If I said to you, for example, 2 and 3. Is 2 bigger than 3 or less than 3? Less. Notice the location on that number line. The number on the left is always less than the number on the right. Always. 0 and negative 2.
0.
0 is what? 0 is bigger, Omar said. Why? 0 is on the right, negative 2 where? On the left. The number on the right is always bigger. A lot of people have a problem with this one. Well, 3 is bigger than 2. But negative here, negative 3 is on the left, negative 2 on the right. The number on the left is what? Smaller. Negative 2.7 and 0. Where's the negative 2.7? Somewhere here. And where's the 0? On the right. So the negative 2.7 is less. Negative 2.5 and negative 3. Negative 2.5 is here. Negative 3 is here. That number is bigger than this. Negative 1/5 and negative 2/3. Now 1/5, if you cut that list, that's if you between 1 and 0, I mean 0 and negative 1, if you cut it by 5, 1/5 is right here, the negative. 2/3 is 2/3 of the way, that's right here. So this number, that's the 1/5, and that's the 2/3, negative, both of them. The one on the right is always what? Bigger than the one on the left. And that's section 7.1.